You're just a wallet to us. My sister scoffed when I refused to pay for my niece's college. I had already spent my savings on her. But that wasn't enough. When I finally stood my ground, the lies started spreading. Uncle Mark, I got in. NYU accepted me. Sophie's voice was trembling with excitement over the phone. I could picture her bouncing on her bed, clutching the acceptance letter with both hands, her green eyes shining with happiness. I smiled, despite the familiar weight pressing on my chest. That's amazing, kiddo, I said, trying to match her enthusiasm. You worked hard for this. You deserve it. I couldn't have done it without you, she admitted, her voice softer now. Mom said you'd help me with tuition, right? And there it was, the unspoken expectation, slipping out so casually, as if it were a given. I felt my stomach tighten, but I kept my voice steady. We'll figure it out, I promised, because that's what I always did. I figured things out for everyone. My sister, Karen, was 5 years older than me, and ever since we were kids, she had a way of making her problems my responsibility. When her first marriage fell apart, she moved back in with our parents, bringing Sophie with her. I was fresh out of college, working long hours at a tech startup. But Karen had a way of making me feel like I owed her something. You're young, single, and making good money, she'd say whenever she needed help. I'm raising a kid alone. It's not like you have a family to support. So I paid for groceries, then the rent, then summer camps and school supplies for Sophie. It was always just until things get better. But things never got better. By the time Sophie was applying to college, Karen had remarried, but her new husband, Dave, had 2 kids of his own. We're stretched thin, Karen told me over dinner one night. You're the only one who can help her. She said it like it was a fact, not a request. Karen, college is expensive. I tried reasoning. Maybe she should consider state schools, or take out some loans. She scoffed. You make 6 figures, Mark. You really can't spare some money for your own niece? She's family. It wasn't a question. It was a challenge. And like an idiot, I folded. I took on the burden without complaint. I covered Sophie's tuition, housing, books, everything. It cost me the down payment I had been saving for my own home. It drained my emergency fund. I had to turn down a job opportunity in a different city because I couldn't afford the relocation expenses. But I told myself it was worth it. Sophie was brilliant, kind, and hardworking. She deserved a chance at success. And if helping her meant putting my own future on hold, then so be it. For the first year, Karen was all gratitude and praise. She called me the best uncle in the world. She told everyone how I was an angel for making Sophie's dreams come true. But as time went on, something shifted. The gratitude faded. The praise turned into expectation. By the time Sophie was starting her junior year, Karen wasn't thanking me anymore. She was demanding. The tuition bill is due next week, Mark. You haven't sent the payment yet. No, please. No, thank you. Just a reminder, as if it were a bill I was obligated to pay. And that was when I finally started asking myself, when did helping turn into owing? The first time I hesitated to send the tuition payment, Karen called me 6 times in a row. Mark, what is going on? She snapped when I finally picked up. Sophie's tuition is due, and she just told me the payment hasn't gone through. I rubbed my eyes, exhausted. It had been a brutal week at work, and the last thing I wanted was another lecture. I was going to send it, I sighed. I just needed a little time. Time, Karen scoffed. It's already late. You knew this was coming. Why would you wait until the last minute? Something in me cracked. Because I'm tired, Karen. Silence. Tired of what? She asked, as if the idea was completely foreign to her. Tired of being treated like an ATM. I shot back. Tired of sacrificing my own future while you act like this is my responsibility. Sophie is your daughter, not mine. Karen let out a bitter laugh. Oh, here we go. The martyr speech. Give me a break, Mark. You make more money than us. You don't have a wife or kids. Who else were you going to spend it on? I was stunned. So, because I don't have my own family, I'm supposed to bankroll yours? It's not bankrolling, Mark. It's helping. It's called being a decent brother. No, Karen, I said, my voice firm now. Helping is a choice. You've turned it into an expectation. She went quiet for a moment. So, what are you saying? She finally asked, her voice sharp with warning. I swallowed, knowing this would change everything. I'm saying I'm done. You owe us. Karen exploded. You can't just walk away from this. Sophie needs you. You promised. I promised to help, I corrected. Not to fund her entire education while you and Dave sit back and do nothing. We can't afford it. Then she can take out loans like the rest of us did, I said coldly. She's smart. She'll figure it out. Oh my God, Karen spat. You're unbelievable. After everything we've done for you. I let out a humorless laugh. Everything you've done for me? Like what? Calling me selfish every time I say no? Making me feel guilty for working hard? Tell me, Karen, what exactly have you done for me? Silence. Then she muttered. You know what? You're a real disappointment, Mark. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. Well, that makes two of us, I said and hung up. For the next few days, I waited for Sophie to call. I thought maybe she'd be angry, or maybe she'd understand. But the call never came. Instead, I got a long, furious text from Karen. Mom and Dad are disgusted with you. You've abandoned your own niece. We took you in when you had nothing, and this is how you repay us? You'll regret this. I stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. The guilt tried to creep in, but I reminded myself, I didn't abandon Sophie. I just stopped letting them treat me like a wallet. For years, I had put my own dreams on hold to support my sister's family. I missed out on opportunities, drained my savings, and convinced myself it was the right thing to do. But in the end, it was never enough. They never saw me as a person, just a paycheck. And for the first time in my life, I was finally free. For the first time in years, my phone was silent. No calls from Karen. No texts from Sophie. No passive-aggressive guilt trips from my parents. And yet, despite finally setting my boundaries, I felt uneasy. Not guilty exactly, just unsettled. Like I had spent so long playing a role that I didn't know what to do with myself now that I had stepped off the stage. But I should have known the silence wouldn't last. 3 days after I told Karen I was done, my mom called. Mark, sweetheart, can you come over for dinner tonight? She asked, her voice dripping with forced warmth. I'm busy, I said flatly. Oh, come on, Mark, she sighed. You haven't been by in weeks. Your father and I miss you. I wasn't stupid. My parents had never once invited me over for dinner without an agenda. Is Karen going to be there? I asked. A pause. Well, yes, Mom admitted. But she just wants to talk. She's very upset. Mark, you blindsided her. You could have handled this more maturely. I gripped my phone tighter. Handled it more maturely? I repeated, my voice steady but sharp. You mean instead of letting her bleed me dry for years, I should have sent a formal notice first? Mark, don't be cruel, Mom scolded. You know Sophie is devastated. She thought she could rely on you. That's the problem, I snapped. She shouldn't have had to rely on me. Karen and Dave had years to plan for her future. But instead of saving, they counted on me to foot the bill. Mom sighed again, as if I were the one being unreasonable. Look, just come to dinner, she urged. We'll talk it through like adults. No arguing, I promise. I should have said no. I knew I should have said no. But against my better judgment, I agreed. Because some part of me, some stupid, desperate part, still wanted to believe that my family would finally understand. I arrived at my parents' house at 7 p.m. sharp. The moment I stepped inside, I knew I had walked into an ambush. Karen was already seated at the dining table, arms crossed, mouth tight with barely concealed anger. My father sat beside her, silent as always, while my mother busied herself in the kitchen, pretending this was just another family dinner. And across from Karen, looking small and uncomfortable, was Sophie. I hadn't heard from her at all since this started, and for a brief second, I wondered if she was angry with me. Then she gave me a hesitant smile. Hey, Uncle Mark, she said quietly, and just like that, I felt a pang of guilt. I forced a smile. Hey, kiddo. But before I could say anything else, Karen cut in. Let's not waste time pretending everything is fine, she said, her voice clipped. You made it clear where you stand, Mark. But I need to understand something. How could you do this to Sophie? There it was. Not how could you do this to me, but how could you do this to her? I clenched my jaw. I didn't do anything to Sophie, I said. I just stopped doing your job for you. Karen let out a bitter laugh. Wow. Wow, okay, she scoffed. So all those years you helped? That was just charity? And now you're done playing the good guy. It was never about playing anything, I said, my patience thinning. I helped because I love Sophie. But you never saw it as help, Karen. You saw it as my duty. And the second I stopped, I became the villain. You are the villain, she snapped. Sophie is this close to graduating, and you're pulling the rug out from under her. Do you know what that does to her future? I turned to Sophie. Did you apply for financial aid? I asked gently. She hesitated, then nodded. And I got approved for loans, she admitted. It won't cover everything, but it's enough to get by. I felt relief wash over me, but before I could speak, Karen jumped in. She shouldn't have to take out loans, she snapped. Not when you can easily afford to help her. My stomach tightened. Karen, do you even hear yourself? I asked, exasperated. You had 18 years to plan for this. 18 years to save. Instead, you spent it expecting me to cover for you. And now you're pissed because I'm done being your safety net. Karen opened her mouth to argue, but before she could, Sophie spoke. Mom, stop. The room went still. Karen's head snapped toward her daughter. What did you just say? Sophie swallowed. Uncle Mark is right, she said, voice quiet but firm. You always said he'd take care of it. But it's not his responsibility. It's yours. And Dave's. Karen looked like she'd been slapped. Sophie, honey, you don't understand. No, Mom, you don't understand, Sophie interrupted. I love you, but I'm not going to be part of this anymore. And then, before anyone could stop her, she stood up and walked out, leaving the rest of us sitting in stunned silence. For a week after the family dinner, I didn't hear from Karen. No angry texts, no guilt trips, nothing. I should have known better. Because Karen's silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. And when she finally made her next move, it hit me like a freight train. It started with a voicemail. Hello. This is Susan from the NYU Student Accounts Office. We're calling regarding the tuition payment for Sophie Williams. The deadline has passed, and we still haven't received the full amount. Since you're listed as the financial guarantor, we need you to confirm the payment immediately. Please call us back as soon as possible. I stared at my phone, my stomach dropping. Financial guarantor? I never signed anything like that. I called back immediately. Hi, this is Mark Williams. I just got a message about my niece's tuition. I think there's been a mistake. Oh, Mr. Williams, the woman on the other end said. Yes, we've been trying to reach you. The remaining balance for Sophie's semester is still unpaid. And since you were listed as her financial sponsor, we wanted to confirm if you'll be covering it. I clenched my jaw. Who exactly listed me as the financial sponsor? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Her mother, Karen Williams, the woman said matter-of-factly. She stated that you had agreed to pay for Sophie's remaining tuition, and since you had covered previous semesters, the system approved it without issue. I closed my eyes, inhaling sharply. Karen. Karen had told the university that I would cover Sophie's tuition, without even asking me. And now they were expecting me to pay thousands of dollars I had never agreed to. I forced myself to stay calm. I'm sorry, but Karen Williams did not have my authorization to make that agreement, I said firmly. I never signed anything. I will not be paying this balance. There was a brief silence. I understand, Mr. Williams, the woman finally said, her voice professional but cautious. But the university was led to believe that you were financially responsible for Sophie's education. If the balance isn't paid soon, Sophie could lose her enrollment for the semester. And just like that, I realized exactly what Karen was trying to do. She wanted to force my hand. She knew I loved Sophie. She knew I wouldn't want her education ruined. And she figured that by making this my problem, I would cave. But she had underestimated just how done I was. I'm very sorry for any confusion, I said, keeping my voice firm. But I will not be covering this balance. Karen Williams misled you. The responsibility for this payment is hers, not mine. Understood, sir? The woman said, though I could hear the tension in her voice. We'll be reaching out to Ms. Williams for clarification. You do that, I said and hung up. Then I grabbed my keys, because Karen and I were about to have a very serious conversation. When Karen opened her front door and saw me standing there, she didn't even look surprised. Well, that was fast, she muttered, crossing her arms. Stop lying, Karen, I snapped. You told NYU that I would pay Sophie's tuition. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? She rolled her eyes. Oh, relax, Mark. It was just a formality. I figured you'd pay it like you always do. So what's the big deal? I felt my fists clench. The big deal is that you lied, I said through gritted teeth. You put my name on something without my consent. That's fraud, Karen. You can't just sign me up for expenses because you don't feel like paying them. She let out an exasperated sigh, like I was being ridiculous. Oh, come on, she scoffed. It's not like you can't afford it. You make 6 figures, Mark. This is nothing to you. And there it was. The same entitled, shameless attitude I had been dealing with my entire life. You still don't get it, do you? I said, shaking my head. It doesn't matter how much money I make. This isn't about money. It's about you thinking you're entitled to it just because we share DNA. Karen rolled her eyes. Spare me the lecture, she muttered. You can either pay it or let Sophie drop out. Your call. I exhaled slowly, feeling the last shred of respect I had for my sister dissolve. Sophie is your daughter, Karen, I said. If she drops out, it's because you failed her, not me. Then I turned and walked away. She didn't stop me, but she wasn't done yet. The lies start spreading. I didn't hear from Karen for another few days. But when I did, it wasn't through a phone call. It was through everyone else. First, my Aunt Donna. Mark, what the hell is wrong with you? She texted. How could you let Sophie suffer like this when you're loaded? Then my cousin Jake. Dude, is it true you cut off Sophie just to spite Karen? That's messed up, man. Then an old family friend. I just heard what happened. I can't believe you would do this to your own niece. The messages kept coming. Karen had been busy. She had spread the story to everyone. But, of course, she had twisted it into something entirely different. According to her, I was some greedy, selfish millionaire who had abandoned my niece out of spite. That I could have paid for Sophie's tuition but refused just to hurt Karen. That I was making Sophie suffer because I had some personal grudge. And worst of all, people believed her. Because Karen had spent years making sure everyone saw me as the rich sibling. The one with no kids, no financial struggles, no responsibilities. She had crafted the perfect narrative. And I was done playing along. The truth comes out. I sent out one message. Just one. A mass email to every family member who had been running their mouths. It was simple. To everyone who has decided to take sides without hearing the full story, here are the facts. I paid for Sophie's college for 3 years out of my own pocket. I was never obligated to do this, it was a favor. Karen, without my knowledge or consent, told the university I would be paying for the final year. This was a lie. When I refused to pay for something I never agreed to, Karen spread false stories about me instead of taking responsibility. If you still think I'm the villain, that's on you. But I won't waste another second justifying myself. I hit send. Then I turned off my phone. Because I was done explaining myself to people who never cared about the truth in the first place. For a few days after I sent that email, there was silence. It wasn't the kind of silence that meant people had forgiven me. It was the kind of silence that meant people were thinking. And when the messages finally started rolling in again, the tone had shifted. The lies fall apart. First, it was my cousin Jake. Hey man, I just talked to Aunt Donna. She said Karen admitted she might have exaggerated a little. Then my aunt herself. Mark, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize Karen put your name on the tuition without asking. That's not okay. Then a family friend. You should have told us the full story earlier. We wouldn't have jumped to conclusions. That last one made me laugh. Because I had told them. They just hadn't wanted to listen. Karen had spent years crafting her image as the struggling single mom. The victim who always needed help. And I had spent years letting people believe that. But now Now they were finally seeing her for who she really was. And she hated it. Karen's meltdown. 2 days later, she showed up at my apartment. I knew she'd come eventually. When I opened the door, she was already fuming. "How dare you?" she snapped, pushing past me and storming inside. "You had no right to humiliate me like that." I shut the door calmly and turned to face her. "You had no right to lie about me," I said evenly. She let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, please, so you really think you're the victim here?" she sneered. "You let Sophie struggle just to prove a point. That's disgusting." I crossed my arms. "Sophie isn't struggling," I said. "She applied for loans. She's handling it. The only one struggling right now is you, because for the first time in your life, you actually have to face the consequences of your own choices." Her face twisted in rage. "You're being completely unreasonable," she spat. "You think you're better than me just because you have money? Because you didn't have kids? Newsflash, Mark. People don't like unbelievably selfish." I nodded slowly. "You're right," I said. She blinked, caught off guard. "Wait, what?" "You're right," I repeated. "People don't like unbelievably selfish. That's why everyone is finally realizing who you really are." Her mouth opened and closed, like she wanted to argue but didn't know how. I didn't give her the chance. "This is the last conversation we're ever going to have, Karen," I said. "I'm done. I don't care what lies you tell next. I don't care who still believes you. You don't exist to me anymore." Her face paled. "Mark, don't be so dramatic." "No." I cut her off. "We're done. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up at my door. I don't forgive you. And I never will." And then I opened the door. "Goodbye, Karen." For a second, she just stood there. Then, with one final glare, she stormed out. And just like that, she was gone. I didn't expect to hear from Sophie anytime soon. After all, Karen was still her mother. And as much as I had tried to protect her from this, she was still caught in the middle. But a week later, she called. "Uncle Mark." "Hey, kiddo," I said cautiously. She hesitated. I moved out." I sat up straight. "What?" "I couldn't stay there anymore," she admitted. "Not after everything. I mean, I always knew Mom had issues, but I didn't realize how much she was using you until I saw it myself." "Where are you now?" I asked. "Living with a friend for now," she said. I wanted you to know that I don't blame you. And I'm really, really sorry for everything she did." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "You don't have to apologize for her, Sophie," I said gently. "You're not responsible for her mistakes." She sniffled. "I just hope I don't turn out like her," she whispered. My heart clenched. "You won't," I promised. We talked for a while. She told me about school, about her job, about how weird it was to finally be on her own. And when we finally hung up, I realized something. I may have lost a sister, but I hadn't lost her. And that was enough. Moving on. Took time to rebuild. Time to shake the guilt. Time to unlearn the habit of always saying yes. Time to realize that I wasn't a bad person for finally choosing myself. But as the months passed, I started to see the difference. I had money in my savings account again. I had free weekends without Karen calling to demand something. I had peace. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying someone else's weight. I was free, and I wasn't going to waste a single second of it. Final update. Thank you, Reddit. Hey everyone. I just wanted to come back and say a huge thank you to all of you who followed my story, gave advice, and supported me through this mess. When I first posted, I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision by cutting off my sister and standing my ground. I had spent so many years being the family ATM that I didn't even know what life looked like without that role. But now, I have clarity, and I have peace. And no, I don't regret a thing. About Sophie. A lot of people in the comments asked me why I paid for my niece's education in the first place, and the answer is simple, because I love her. Sophie is like a daughter to me. She has always been kind, hardworking, and most importantly, she never once acted entitled to my help. Even after everything that happened, after her mom lied and dragged my name through the mud, Sophie still reached out to me. She apologized for things that weren't even her fault. She made an effort to stand on her own 2 feet, and I respect the hell out of her for that. So yes, I am still helping her financially. But this time, it's on my terms. I don't cover everything, and she knows that. But I help where I choose to help. Whether that's rent assistance, books, or just sending her a little extra when I know she's stressed. It's my decision, not an expectation. And that makes all the difference. About Karen. I know some people might say I should be completely done with Karen. And trust me, I considered it. But cutting off family isn't always as simple as pressing block and walking away forever. Karen and I only see each other during major family gatherings, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the occasional birthday. But we don't talk. I wouldn't even call it being civil. It's just existing in the same room. A nod, a forced smile, maybe a passing "how've you been?" that neither of us actually wants an answer to. And honestly, I hate it. Not because I miss our old relationship, if you can even call it that, but because I wish it could be different. There's a part of me that wants to fix things, that wants to sit down with her, lay everything out and somehow make it right. But then I ask myself, is it worth it? Because the truth is, I don't think she's changed. And if she hasn't changed, then what exactly is there to fix? So, Reddit, what do you think? Is there any point in trying to rebuild a relationship with someone who never took responsibility for what they did? Or should I just accept that this is how things will always be? Either way, I'm good. For the first time in a long time, I'm really, really good. Thanks again, Reddit. You guys helped me more than you know. Mark.